and welcome to another episode of Putt Putt Productions and Rachel reading from one of her stories. Next month, which is tomorrow, August 1st, a novella of mine is coming out. It's not out yet, but sometime in August it will be out through Samstop Publishing. The name of the novella is Needs Must When the Devil Drives. This is just a mock-up of the cover and what it would look like, sort of. Not really. Anyway, so I'll be reading you chapter 1 today, so you can get a taste and see if you'd like to get yourself a copy. So here we go. Needs Must When the Devil Drives, an apocalyptic romance by Rachel Olivier. Hot heat. Mom. Where was Mom? It was dark, followed by a bright light. I couldn't see. Fire was everywhere. Light was everywhere, blinding me as I called out for her. Mom! I awoke in a sweat, heart pounding. Jake looked up at me and licked my face. My hands shook as I unzipped my sleeping bag and crawled out of the tent. I shivered from the remembered nightmare, chills rushing over my skin despite the sweat, but I needed the fresh air. Ever since I'd moved back home from Los Angeles to care for my mom, it had been one thing after another, and now, my first night away, I awoke from imagined horrors. I was too used to the real deal. Holding Jake for comfort, I remembered a few days before. I'll put this here and that there. No, can't do that. We'll put that and this over there. Mom's soft voice puzzled aloud the maze going through her head. I looked down at the soiled tissue she had so carefully placed in my hand. Tears tried to push through the bounds of my eyes, but I had been through this before. I took a deep breath, dumped the tissue in the trash bin, and washed my hands. Come on, Mom, we have to go to the center now. I checked my watch. Half an hour to take her to the adult daycare center before I went to work. I followed her into the living room and felt the familiar tension in my stomach when I found the room empty. Mom, we have to go now. I started a circuit of the house. Living room to dining room to kitchen to bathroom to bedroom. Jake followed me from room to room, thinking it was a game. I gave him an absent-minded pat, trying to swallow my tension. Mom was not here. This was not good. Think you lost someone here, Kelly? Tom, our neighbor, knocked on the screen door, standing on the front step and holding Mom by the arm. Relieved, the most I could give him was a plastered-on smile. In the few minutes I'd lost track of her, she decided to take off her shoes and dress and had gone outside in her slip. Her childlike baby blue eyes belied the aging, wrinkled body that I pulled in through the screen door. Jake was sniffing her. She must have soiled herself again. When, between taking her potty this morning and getting her dressed for the center, had she had to go again? I glanced at the clock on the mantel and felt my throat tighten in frustration. It was going to take longer than 5 minutes to get her cleaned up, dressed, and safely in the car. I was going to have to call in late again. I felt my world constricting around me. I needed another life. And that's the sports scores. In other news, scientists at NASA, the National Center for Atmospheric Research, and the National Space Science and Technology Center predict a massive solar storm on the way. That's a lot of egghead speak for watch out for your cell phone coverage, everyone. They think this one will be a doozy, so don't be surprised if you get dropped calls. Just don't drop that dial. KISM 92.9 will keep you plugged in. Back to the Stones Marathon right after this. I flipped off the radio. Nothing against the Rolling Stones, I just wasn't in the mood for them while driving through the mountains. Sometimes it sucked having an old car with nothing but an AM/FM radio and broken tape player. I couldn't even use one of those adapters for my MP3 player. Despite that, it was nice to be getting out of town for a while. Well, I can always sing and practice lines, right, Jake? I looked over at the 2-year-old chocolate lab mix in the seat next to me. That is, if I had lines to practice. I pulled my phone out of my pocket to check for messages. Nothing. Then I saw the bar's icon was crossed out. No service. Even if there was something, I couldn't get it. I wasn't sure if I was worried or relieved. I rolled down the window to feel the cool air rush in. I was looking forward to a night alone in the woods, to the smell of pine and fir and the spongy feel of needles and turf beneath my feet. The old Volvo was making good time, despite threatening its imminent demise with mysterious creaks and groans. I had decided on a lake campground northwest of Barrington Bay. It was mostly a smooth drive up the highway, left at Jackson and eventually north. There weren't that very many people on the road this late in the season. The houses and businesses I drove past were decorated with pumpkins and hay bales. Some roadside stands offered fresh apples and apple cider for sale, but we made it, Jake and I. Looking over him, I smiled the first real smile I'd had in a while. When I parked in front of the park office to check in, my car dieseled, not wanting to shut off. I felt my face go red with embarrassment and sat in the car a few minutes, scritching Jake's ears until the car finally stopped, sputtering. At least the only other car in the parking lot was the Ranger's pickup. Jake kept looking from me to the door. He really wanted out. Okay, boy, I'll be right back, and then we'll go on a good long walk, I promise. Jake looked up at me, dark brown eyes daring me to break that promise. I stepped out of the car and caught a waft of fir, pine, and water from the lake and stood there soaking it in. I needed this. The woman behind the reception desk looked up as I walked into the office. The blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail showed off her cheekbones and water blue eyes. Tall, stocky build, I pegged her as one of the many Nordic stock who lived in this far corner of Washington. Her name tag said Sandra. Beautiful anywhere else, Sandra would have been lucky to get a part in a stage play back in Los Angeles. I sighed and tried once more to let go of that dream. I had a different life now. Demands had changed. Needs had changed. Everything had changed. Hi, I made reservations for the weekend, but I guess I didn't need to. I gestured out to the empty parking lot. Yeah, you pretty much have your pick of places. The office will be open until 5 p.m. if you need anything. She handed me the permit and a park map as I pulled out my wallet to pay for the spot. I felt my cell in my pocket and pulled it out to check to see if I got any bars. Cell phone coverage is spotty here. You might have it here and not at your camping spot, or you might need to walk up the road a ways. Thanks, and I didn't think to check, but I brought my dog. As long as I stay on the leash. If no one's around, do you think it would be okay to leave him off the leash? I wouldn't recommend it, not unless you know he won't dart after something and disappear into the trees. Are you familiar with these woods? She gave me the eye, and I thought better of arguing the point. I hadn't been out here since college. Even the drive out here had been different from what I remembered. Okay, well, thanks again. It was a relief to get back in the car. Jake was whimpering and fidgeting on the car seat from paw to paw. Okay, baby, soon. I put the keys in the ignition to drive to our spot, then stopped to check the map. Sandra had circled one of the spots on the map as being a good campsite to choose. It was within walking distance of the park office, but back far enough so that it didn't feel like we were camping by the road. Putting the map on the dash, I started to put the car in gear when I heard my cell phone ding. Pulling it out, I saw a voicemail waiting. Aunt Jean didn't know anything about texting. She must have called when I was out of range. I just need to check in with Auntie Jean and Mom, Jake, and then we'll be on our way, I promise. I used that word with Jake a lot lately. I pressed the speed dial for home and waited for Aunt Jean to answer. Hi, Auntie Jean, I just got to the campground. Is everything all right? Yes, everything's fine, just fine. Your mother seems a little restless. I pictured Mom rocking back and forth in her chair, wanting to go for a walk. Is she okay, though? Are you okay? Don't worry, honey, we're fine. Here, I think she'll feel better if you spoke with her. I don't really think. I tried to stop Auntie Jean from passing the phone, but it was already too late. I heard her hold the phone up for my mother. Hi, Mom. My voice sounded overly cheerful even in my ears. How are you doing? Kelly? Kelly, where are you? I'm just going to be gone for a couple of days, Mom. I'll be back soon. Auntie Jean will take care of you. Curfew is midnight, young lady. Your father and I want you home no later than that. Yes, Mom, I sighed. She was remembering me in high school. At least she remembers who I am, I thought. I'm serious, Kelly. I want you home on time tonight. I heard Auntie Jean ask Mom a question. I have to go, Mom. I'll be home soon. I love you. For some reason I felt silly saying it, but I still needed to say it. Auntie Jean came back on the phone. Well, so, she misses you. Yeah, I'll be back on Monday. I have to go now. Jake needs his WALK. I felt Jake jerk in his seat. Yep, I had the smart dog who knew how to spell. The cell coverage here isn't so good, but I'll try to call you back if you call me and leave a message, okay, Auntie Jean? All right, dear. You just have a good time. Try and enjoy yourself. I don't think she meant to make me feel guilty, but I felt guilty as I hung up. I stepped out onto the buoyant carpet of pine needles once we were at the campsite and stretched. After 3 years of being my mother's sole caretaker, I was more than ready for this break. Jake scarpered out after me, ready to take on the entire campground if he could. "Hold on there, Jake." I grabbed his collar before he could go far. "We have things to do before we explore." He looked at me, eyes begging for more than a treat. He couldn't sit still, nose twitching. "You promised." I shook my head as I thought I heard something from him. "Okay, we'll go for a walk first." I grabbed his leash from the car, clipped it on, locked the car up again, and set about searching for the restrooms for me and an acceptable spot for Jake to do his business as well. Since it was late autumn and the off-season, I didn't expect there to be too many people, but I was surprised to see the park so empty. I suppose I should have felt lonely, or a little worried at least, as I walked my dog in the middle of an empty campground. The act of pulling one of the plastic bags out of my jacket pocket and finding somewhere to throw away the poop was normal enough to ease any worries I had. Still, I tried to imagine the news clip if anything happened. "Former actress Kelly Joyce missing in Mount Baker National Forest." Jake huffed at me as if I were ridiculous. "Okay, how about lone woman saved by brave dog in Camp Wilderness?" I laughed when Jake licked my hand. I was actually relieved that no one else was out here. After putting up the tent, an exercise equivalent to making the bed with a cat around, I spent the rest of the day hiking with Jake, enjoying the solitude. A couple of deer strayed in our path before catching our scent and bounding off. One chipmunk scampered up a tree out of Jake's reach before stopping to bawl us out for being in his territory. Squirrels paused, sniffed, and then ran on before Jake got interested, or I lost my hold on his leash. Once we got back from our hike, I built a fire with the wood I'd bought on the way out of town. It took longer than I remembered it taking, and by the time it got going, it was full dark. No radios or stereos marred the quiet evening song of insects and birds, just the crackle from the fire. A bright, clear moon and the stars were the only light gleaming down past branches of trees, black in the indigo dark. Breathing deep and stretching to the sky, I watched the sparks drift up from the fire and finally felt free. I didn't need to worry about Mother tonight. I wasn't needed at work for the next few days. In fact, when I thought about it, I pulled my phone out of my pocket and decided to place it safely in the glove compartment of my car. Auntie Jean wasn't watching Mom while I was away. I didn't need to sleep with my cell like a security blanket. I looked up at all the stars I hadn't been able to see when I was in Barrington, or in Los Angeles for that matter. I felt tears prick my eyes at the beauty of the bright stars against the dark velvet sky. "'Twere all one that I should love a bright particular star and think to wed it." I quoted the lines from Shakespeare's "All's Well That Ends Well" up at the Big Dipper and suddenly felt a rush of memories. On stage in front of bright lights, auditioning in front of cameras and a director, practicing scenes in acting class. And then I was crying for a whole different reason. I felt Jake nudge my hand. "It's okay, Jake, just feeling a little blue." I'd wanted to be that star so badly. I wiped my eyes and nose and pushed it out of my mind. I wanted to enjoy this camping trip. Who knew when I'd get another chance for something like this? As Jake and I tucked into my little tent, I let go a sigh of relief, releasing tension to the night air, and fell fast asleep. We'll see what happens after that. Okay, so that is chapter 1 of Needs Must When the Devil Drives, an apocalyptic romance. I hope it intrigued you enough that you are interested in picking up a copy when it comes out. And have a great day. Bye.